It was just a knock-knock joke, Brandon. Chill out. 1989 saw the release of James O'Barr's The Crow, the story of a man resurrected to seek revenge for the death of his fiancée.
5 years later, director Alex Proyas brought the 4 main books of the vengeful spirit to the big screen, and with Brandon Lee's pitch-perfect casting, The Crow went on to become a full-blown cult classic.
What do you think, Clint? Halloween's right around the corner. Ready to put on some makeup and become indestructible?
Always. I'm literally always ready for that.
Then without further ado, and no restraint on spoilers, it's time to ask, what's the difference?
The story of The Crow in both book and movie is the same at its core. Eric Draven, artistic and brooding in a super gothic early 90s MTV sort of way, is brought back from the dead as an indestructible force of revenge and sets out to murder the crap out of the gang that murdered the crap out of him and his fiancée Shelley. It's a story of a deep and true love being ripped apart by a cruel, unfair world, only to be avenged by an unstoppable force of anger and sadness. And while most of the events and characters from the graphic novel appear in the adaptation, nearly everything in the movie is tweaked, repurposed, or rearranged.
Sure, the same people get killed, but in a different order and in different ways. In fact, everything is so just changed enough that this episode was sneakily difficult to write. Moving through the book and movie chronologically just ain't the way to go this time. So let's take this one in categories, shall we?
Suddenly, I heard a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door.
First up, the characters. Now, obviously, in the film version, Eric Draven is still the Crow, and Shelley Webster is still his slain fiancée.
The other good guys in the movie are Sergeant Albrecht, the good cop in a bad city who works Eric and Shelley's case, and Sarah, a young girl whom Eric and Shelley took care of. Albrecht is a mashup of 2 characters from the graphic novel, a nervous rookie beat cop who encounters the Crow, and Captain Hook, the officer who stayed by Eric's bedside after the attack. Movie Albrecht instead stayed with Shelley in the hospital for 30 hours before she finally died.
Sarah from the film takes the place of Sherry from the book, a young girl who Eric befriends as the Crow while he's on his vengeful rampage. The name change is probably just because Sherry sounds a little too much like Shelley, and the 2 shush names are one too many. Either way, in both book and movie, she is the daughter of Funboy's girlfriend.
Hold up, Funboy?
Yeah, Funboy.
Don't you ever f***ing die? You put me up for the night?
You see, Eric's prey are a street gang. T-Bird, Tintin, Tom Tom, Top Dollar, and Funboy. And just as a quick aside, these guys make a run at, but don't quite top the Warriors for coolest street tough names we've talked about on this show.
Hey, did you know David Patrick Kelly, who plays T-Bird in The Crow, also played Luther in The Warriors? That can't be a coincidence. Sucks getting typecast as a homicidal crazy person, huh? Either way, that's boom, a bonus thing you didn't know. And that's the wrong show. I'm sorry, continue.
Come on, man, muddling up the shows. All right, so T-Bird, Tintin, Tom Tom, and Funboy play similar roles in the book and movie, but Top Dollar gets a promotion to main bad guy in the movie.
Are we having fun or what?
Top Dollar from the book runs his own crew of drug pushers, but he gets killed in no more dramatic way than any of the other thugs involved in Eric and Shelley's death.
Movie Top Dollar, on the other hand, is the big bad, the final boss that runs the whole city. A fancy and eccentric villain with an exotic femme fatale who shares his interest in the occult. And while he wasn't actually there the night Eric and Shelley were attacked, it was on his orders that T-Bird and his crew were there that night. You see, Shelley had been campaigning for tenants' rights in a building that I think Top Dollar owns, so the goons were sent to rough up the tenants and scare them into clamming up. But meanwhile, all the fires on Devil's Night were also Top Dollar's doing. But those are kind of just for fun, or something. Listen, it's not super clear.
Narratively, though, the book is much simpler. Book Eric is resurrected and begins carving a clear, unimpeded path of revenge through the gang members that took his life and the life of the woman he loved. He kills Tintin first, Top Dollar, and a handful of his goons second. Tom Tom gets his leg sliced off and bleeds out after pointing Eric to Gideon's pawn shop. And then Gideon gets killed after Eric recovers Shelley's engagement ring. Then he finds Funboy to round up the rest of the crew. Then after one complete memory of his and Shelley's really horrific attack, he goes after T-Bird and then the rest of the gang in a big shoot 'em up on the street. And then that's that. And then he's done.
Just stomps right through them. Not one of them puts up any sort of fight. Eric, as the Crow, doesn't even break a sweat.
Pretty much, yeah. No trouble at all. Bullets go right through him and he doesn't feel a thing. His straight-ahead ass-stomping tour is only broken up by scenes of depression over the loss of his beloved Shelley, some self-mutilation, a few bits of modern dance, and of course memories of the days when he looked like a young, buffed-out Rod Stewart.
So that's the biggest difference between the book and the movie. All of the tweaks fall under a heading we're going to call the Hollywooding of The Crow. A movie needs its hero to struggle. The audience needs to think, if only in a superficial way, that the hero might not get the happy ending we think they deserve. So all the little tweaks begin adding up to a Hollywoodified movie. When Eric starts with killing Tintin in the movie, he actually gets his ass kicked a little bit. There's a car chase for no reason at all before he kills T-Bird. Eric goes on the run from the cops after taking out a bunch of Top Dollar's men and needs Albrecht's help to escape. And adding Sarah's prior relationship with Eric and Shelley makes the undead crow a little more relatable beyond just his grief.
Although it is a little weird that Sarah's mom hangs out with the same group of dudes that murdered Eric and Shelley.
Yes, but when Eric sucks all the drugs out of her mom's veins with magic, that's way more helpful than leaving a note for a rookie cop to go take care of her.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyway, the most Hollywooding of the Crow is done with the change in Top Dollar's character.
Oh, this is already boring the shit out of me. Kill him!
For starters, just making him a more prominent figure in Detroit's underground raises the stakes. However, giving Top Dollar and his girlfriend an interest in the occult gives them something with which to fight the Crow. When they discover his powers are linked to the Crow, they've discovered a weakness to exploit, thus making our hero's journey more difficult.
So the book lacked any sort of real obstacle between Eric and his vengeance, and the movie gave him one in the form of super crazy Top Dollar. What does that difference really mean for the story? Well, for starters, the book is all about love and loss, pain and anger. Even though Eric technically brutally murders everybody who brutally murdered him, revenge is a much smaller part of the story. Obar, who at the time was dealing with a deeply tragic loss of his own, seems to use the crow as the manifestation of his grief. It's angry and hostile and literally indestructible until it runs its course. The only thing you can hope to accomplish is to be aware of the world around you enough to make at least something a little bit better.
And because movies tend to be more journey than statement, we have to see Eric struggle. Where the book ends with all the bad dudes dead and Eric climbing back into the grave, the movie goes one step further. Because Top Dollar doesn't reveal that he was ultimately behind Eric and Shelley's murder until the very end, Eric is settling back into his grave, feeling good about all the justice he's doled out when Top Dollar, his creepy magic lady, and his top lieutenant show up and kidnap Sarah. The fight scene ends with Albrecht pitching in, but it's Eric's own grief that ends up winning the day.
I have something to give you. I don't want it anymore.
Like we said earlier, when movie Albright sat by Shelley's bed for 30 straight hours, Eric was able to feel all that raw anguish and pain, and ultimately transfer that to Top Dollar, driving him mad enough to fall off the damn roof. So, while the book shows grief to be a destructive force that must be endured until it's run its course, Movie Crow confronts his grief, using it in order to finish his journey back to the grave.
Buildings burn, people die, but real love is forever.
So how about that? Special Halloween, what's the difference about pain, loss, grief, and the early 90s grunge rock scene?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of touched on it.
I was listening to a lot of The Cure this whole time, so it's like in there.
Sure it is, Clint. Sure it is.
Shut up, Casey. You don't understand me.
Well, that's it for this episode. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to Cinefix for more What's the Difference?
And 9 Inch Nails and STP. There's even a Rage song on the soundtrack. How did we not talk more about this soundtrack?